The Chronologue. A conversation with Dorian Gray. The rain hammers relentlessly against the tall windows of a Victorian townhouse nestled in Belgravia, London. It's 2025. The streets glisten beneath street lamps, and the city feels suspended in time. Inside, the drawing room is a sanctuary from the storm, a curated museum of decadence, shadowed by velvet drapes and warmed by the soft crackle of a hearth. It smells of Turkish tobacco, old paper, leather, and something else. Faintly floral, like dried lavender pressed into the folds of a forgotten book. Tonight, Jude Meridian is not traveling through time. Tonight, he is meeting someone who has lived through it. Dorian Gray, the man who never aged, the man who never died, the man who walked out of myth and into the present, untouched by time but deeply touched by what it carried with it.
So this is really happening. You're actually him, Dorian Gray.
You sound like someone who's seen a ghost or met a god. I'm neither. I'm just very good at surviving. And yet, your clothing offends me more than your skepticism. That jacket, is it vinyl?
Probably. Or some poly blend. We recycle ocean trash into fashion now.
Recycle, how poetic. You know, there was a time when even one's sins weren't reused. They were bespoke, tailored. Now even decadence is mass-produced.
Well, that's part of why I'm here. I didn't come for a lecture on my wardrobe. I came to hear your side. Not Wilde's version. Yours.
Oscar. Brilliant man, reckless heart. He understood the myth of me better than I did. But the truth is harder to frame in epigrams.
Dorian gestures languidly to a side table where an Art Deco decanter sits, its amber contents glowing under the firelight. He pours himself a glass with theatrical precision.
Shall I pour for you?
No thanks, I want to stay sharp. This moment feels historic.
It isn't, but it is rare. Most who seek me out want proof or absolution. You want understanding. That's more dangerous.
Then let's start with the basics. What does a day in the life of Dorian Gray look like today?
Today? I woke up in silk sheets that have outlasted dynasties. Had French-pressed coffee on the balcony. Watched a gull steal a child's croissant. I made no phone calls. Answered no emails. I wandered a museum anonymously. Had lunch with a dying duchess and listened without interrupting once. And now, I'm talking to a man who looks like a podcast host but sounds like a priest.
That's oddly poetic.
I've had time to edit my speech.
And the portrait? Still hidden?
Buried, behind 7 locks in a sub-basement no architect recalls. But I feel it. In my chest. Like rot under gold leaf.
Ever think about destroying it?
Often, but destroying it means facing what I've become. Not metaphorically. Literally. All my sins in oil and canvas. I've forgotten who I was before that first brushstroke dried.
Wilde said the soul was a terrible reality. Do you agree?
Art, no. The soul is a delicate myth. It bruises easily. Reality is far more cruel than anything you can imagine. The portrait doesn't lie. It just reflects the parts you can't put on display.
Dorian sips slowly. The fire catches in the facets of his glass like frozen lightning.
So tell me something true, something you've never said aloud.
I miss hunger, not metaphorical hunger, actual physical, gnawing hunger. The kind that makes food taste like redemption. I haven't felt that in over a century. I eat, but never need. I drink, but never thirst. I sleep, but never dream.
That sounds lonely.
It is. But it's also liberating. No needs means no dependencies, no risks, no heartbreak. Just existence. Polished, perpetual, performative existence.
Do you miss heartbreak?
More than I'll admit. But pain when it comes is antiseptic now. Sterile. Like simulation. That's the curse. You remember what feeling was, but you can't return to it.
You make it sound like a kind of death.
Death has finality. This is worse. It's a life with no punctuation.
Then why keep going?
Because something unexpected might still happen. Like you. Like this. Like maybe one day I open that door and choose to look.
Jude leans back in his chair, the rain easing into a soft patter. In this candlelit hush, two men speak not just across time, but across the fragile membrane between myth and meaning. The air in the room feels warmer now, as if the act of remembering has raised the temperature. Outside, the London night glistens beneath a pause in the storm, but here, the atmosphere thickens with each exchanged word.
You say you're just existing, but don't you ever crave creation to shape something beyond your legend?
I did. I painted, composed, wrote. But everything I made was hollow. Not because I lacked talent, immortality makes you excellent at many things, but because I lacked vulnerability. True art bleeds. I do not bleed.
But you feel regret. You said so?
Regret, yes, is a kind of echo, but it's not the same as feeling wounded. I am a perfect surface over a festering void.
That's bleak.
It's honest.
Dorian stands and drifts toward a wall adorned with photographs. They're not posed portraits, but candid moments. A laughing boy on a beach in 1934. A woman in bell-bottoms pouring tea. A jazz band, mid-set in a Parisian basement bar. Each image carefully framed, but never touched by time.
Are these people you knew?
Loved in a way, or wanted to become. I collect lives like these, not souvenirs, reminders. Every photo is a fork in the road I didn't take.
You sound more human than I expected.
That's the trap. I am human. But I've cheated so many rules of being human that the term barely fits anymore. I'm a myth living in a man's skin.
Then what keeps you grounded?
Beauty, not vanity, beauty. The arrangement of form, light, gesture. A well-set table, a string quartet. The way a stranger tucks hair behind their ear before speaking.
That's unexpectedly gentle.
Immortality dulls the appetite, but sharpens the senses. I notice everything. That is both a gift and a punishment.
Have you ever tried being anonymous?
Often, it's easy. The world forgets quicker than it remembers. Change your name. Leave before you're noticed. Be charming. Never memorable. It's easier now than ever.
But don't you get lonely?
Loneliness is the wallpaper of my existence. At first, it was unbearable. Then it became background noise. Now I measure intimacy in hours, not years. Like this.
This is intimacy?
Of a kind, you're asking questions no one dares ask. You're seeing me. Not the myth, but the residue.
Jude sips his water. The room quiets. Even the fire seems to lower its voice. Dorian sits again, his hands resting on the arms of his chair, fingers barely twitching.
Let's go back to the beginning. Not Wilde's version, yours. Why did you really make the wish?
Because I was afraid. I was young and beautiful and terrified of the moment that would change. I thought if I could stop the clock, I could stop time's cruelty. I didn't understand that I was also halting my evolution.
Evolution?
To change is to grow, to age is to mature. I stopped at perfection, and thus, I stagnated. I'm a statue that breathes.
Do you believe in redemption?
I want to. But for me, redemption would mean aging, weakening, dying. I'd have to undo the pact. I'd have to become what I once feared most.
And that terrifies you?
Not as much as the possibility that I'd do it and still be unworthy of forgiveness.
You're being very open tonight.
I like your voice. It cuts through the noise. And there's something about the way you ask questions. It doesn't feel like interrogation. It feels like remembering.
I'll take that as a compliment.
The wind picks up again outside. A loose shutter taps against the house. Dorian doesn't flinch. He seems almost fused to the furniture now. Half sculpture, half man.
You've watched the world change countless times. What do you make of this moment we're in, 2025?
It's chaotic, electrified. People are living faster than ever, but not deeper. They document everything and digest nothing. The facade has never been more curated, and the truth more disposable.
And yet you're still here.
Because there are still rare moments of grace. A stranger offering their seat. A child laughing at pigeons. A flawed voice hitting a perfect note. These keep me here. These and curiosity.
Curiosity?
Yes. About what comes next, about who I might meet, about whether someone like you might convince me to open that door, to face the portrait.
The rain resumes. London sighs. Inside the room, time seems to stretch and fold inward. The fire has burned lower now, its light casting longer shadows on the carpet and gilded moldings. Outside, the storm returns with a hush, not a roar. Gentle rain pattering against the window panes like a distant memory.
You said you were curious about what comes next. What about the end of you?
Ah, yes, my end. It's the most paradoxical fantasy I indulge. How will it happen? Will I finally gather the courage to face the portrait? Will it be stolen, burned? Or will I go on forever until the earth swallows me whole?
Is that a fear?
It's a possibility, one I consider often. There's a silence I long for, one that only death seems able to offer. But there's always that sliver of me that whispers, stay. One more night.
What about others like you? Do you think there are more?
Not like me, there are others who extend their lives. Technology, ritual, genetic manipulation. But they are still chained to mortality's logic. I am something else entirely. A relic. An error. A warning.
And yet, you still have style.
Style is all I have left that time hasn't corrupted.
Jude smiles faintly, then leans forward.
What about connection? You mentioned intimacy earlier. What does that look like for you now?
Fleeting, beautiful, doomed. I've learned to treasure moments, not people. A conversation, a gesture, a night spent watching someone sleep. Those stay with me far longer than names or birthdays. People pass through me like seasons, and
You sound like you mourn them.
I do. In my own way. But mourning them doesn't change the fact that I am the constant, and they are the variable. I'm the equation with no solution.
And yet you seem so composed.
Eternity demands poise. If I fell apart each time someone I loved faded into history, I'd be nothing but dust and tears. Poise is my only armor.
Do you ever dream of giving it all back? Not just ending it, but reversing it.
More often than I care to admit, I imagine waking with wrinkles, with sore knees. I imagine pain, fatigue, and laughter that doesn't echo in a void. But that version of me only lives in daydreams. He's not welcome here.
I think he might be the only version who could forgive you.
That's the tragedy, isn't it?
Dorian stands, walking to a narrow console table where a single candle burns. He pinches the flame out, and the room dims further. Jude watches him in silhouette now. Less a man, more a shadow sculpted by centuries.
Tell me about Sibyl.
Sibyl, she was music, not a person, a symphony. I mistook her purity for performance. And when she showed me truth, I called it failure. I destroyed her because she shattered my illusion of superiority.
Do you think about her?
Often, not her face, but the sound of her voice cracking when she realized I didn't love her. That crack echoes louder than any applause I've ever heard.
You remember it clearly.
I've never forgotten pain I caused. I remember every syllable, every ruined silence.
And the artist in Paris?
He saw the truth. But he loved the lie. He was so sure he could peel it away, find the beating heart beneath. I warned him, but he believed love conquers. It doesn't. Love surrenders.
So you left?
I stayed just long enough to poison him with hope.
That's cruel.
Yes, it is.
The grandfather clock in the corner ticks with greater clarity now. Time, too, seems to have entered the conversation, uninvited but ever present.
Do you believe anyone ever truly sees you?
Tonight I do. You're not afraid of what you see. Most look and only find beauty. You look and see the fracture lines.
I think we all have cracks. Yours are just better hidden.
Mine are architectural.
What happens if the portrait is destroyed and you live? What then?
Then I would have to begin, really begin, learn everything I missed. Let go of the masks, sit with guilt. Maybe, just maybe, try to be human again.
Could you do that?
If I had the courage, perhaps, but after so long, courage feels like a language I've forgotten.
Maybe it only takes a word to remember it.
Maybe, or maybe I need a translator.
Jude chuckles. Dorian doesn't, but something in his eyes shifts. The kind of shift tectonic plates make. Slow, ancient, imperceptible to most, but world-altering in time.
Let's talk about now, about this world. What do you see in us?
I see brilliance, potential, rot, and noise. You're more connected than ever and lonelier than ever. Your gods wear algorithms and your prayers are posts. But amid the madness, I still see moments of staggering grace.
That's hopeful.
It's observant. Hope would be believing those moments will multiply.
Do you?
I don't know, but I want to.
The fire has dwindled to embers, and the room is illuminated mostly by ambient city light, filtering through the rain-streaked windows. The soft hum of traffic in the distance mixes with the steady tick of a clock that has been counting time since the reign of Queen Victoria. Jude leans forward, elbows resting on his knees, while Dorian reclines deeper into his chair, as if withdrawing into memory.
You said maybe you want to believe in change. What would that even look like for you?
Change, it would have to be fundamental, not a new wardrobe or another alias. I'd need to rewire the way I see the world, feel things differently, learn to lose, learn to stay.
You sound like someone who's thought about it a lot.
Centuries give you the luxury of contemplation and the curse of inaction. You become a master of imagining what you could be without ever moving an inch toward it.
That sounds like paralysis, and
It is a beautifully furnished, exquisitely decorated paralysis, with vintage rugs and curated silence.
A gust of wind outside rattles the upper windows. Dorian glances toward the ceiling, then speaks without looking at Jude.
You know, I used to think time was a river, something that flowed around me while I stood still. But now I realize I've been moving too, just not forward. I've been circling, spiraling inward, each year a little closer to the center of my own gravity.
And what's at the center?
The portrait, of course. Always the portrait.
Describe it to me.
I'd rather not.
Please.
It's monstrous. Not because it's grotesque, but because it's true. It shows me not just as I am, but as I've been. Every betrayal, every abandonment, every moment I turned away instead of turning toward. The surface ripples with them. Sometimes when I'm near it, I swear I can hear whispers, like dried leaves scraping against stone.
And yet you keep it.
Of course. What else could I do? Destroy it and die, or worse, live and finally feel everything at once?
Do you think guilt is the thing you're afraid of?
I know it is, but not guilt alone. Exposure. The stripping away of glamour and excuse. Seeing myself as others would see me, without the charm, without the myth. Just a man who made one terrible choice and never found the courage to undo it.
Do you think there's still time?
I have nothing but time.
That's not what I meant.
I know, and I don't know the answer. That's the most honest thing I can say tonight.
Silence returns, but this time it is not uncomfortable. It wraps around them like a third presence. Watching, listening, waiting.
Tell me something good. Something that made you feel alive.
A jazz bar in Harlem, 1947. I was seated at a back table with a writer who smelled of tobacco and bourbon. He quoted Baldwin between sets. The pianist had tears in his eyes during My Funny Valentine. The room was thick with smoke and heartbreak, but it felt more honest than any palace I've ever visited.
Did the writer know who you were?
Art, no, but he saw me, that was enough. He died 2 years later of tuberculosis. I never said goodbye. I never do.
Why not?
Because if I don't say goodbye, I can pretend they're still alive somewhere. Living, forgetting me.
That's a heavy way to live.
It's the only way I know.
Jude takes out a notebook and pen, almost instinctively. He doesn't write, just holds them. Dorian notices.
Planning to transcribe me,
Clock number just a habit. Something about this feels like a confession.
maybe it is.
Then let me ask you something a priest might ask. Do you want forgiveness?
Art, no. I want understanding. Forgiveness is about the forgiver. Understanding, that might change me.
Then help me understand the man beneath the myth.
Very well. Ask me something I've never answered before.
What were you like before the wish?
Afraid, desperate, hungry for attention. I used charm as a shield. I mistook admiration for love. I was a boy terrified of becoming ordinary.
And now?
Now I'm a man terrified of staying extraordinary forever.
Do you hate yourself?
Only when I feel something. The rest of the time I'm indifferent.
Indifference is worse than hatred.
I agree.
What would you say to Sibyl if you could see her again?
I'd say, I was wrong. You were the real thing. You deserved more. Then I'd say nothing else. She wouldn't want my excuses.
Would you cry?
I don't know if I can anymore, but I'd try.
Dorian stands and walks to a bookcase. He runs his fingers along the spines. Keats, Nietzsche, Didion, Murakami. He pulls out a slim volume and opens it. Inside is a sketch of a young man's face. Tentative lines, delicate shading. The eyes are haunted.
He drew this the night before I left. He never said goodbye either. Just handed me the sketch and walked away.
You kept it all this time?
Not everything should be forgotten.
What's his name?
Art, no. Some names I keep for myself.
Fair.
Would you like to ask me about God?
Only if you want to answer.
I believe in God the way I believe in gravity, something that holds everything together but cares nothing for our prayers.
That's bleak.
That's balance.
Do you believe you have a soul?
I used to. Now I'm not sure if I misplaced it or traded it.
Can a soul be reclaimed?
I think a soul is like a garden. You neglect it long enough, it doesn't die. It just becomes something wild. Maybe it's not about reclaiming it, but tending to what's left.
That's unexpectedly hopeful.
Even I surprise myself sometimes.
Jude stands and walks slowly toward the hearth. He rests his hand on the mantel, staring into the dying fire.
What if tonight was the beginning?
What?
Of something different? Not redemption, not penance, just awareness.
That would be more than I've had in 100 years.
Then let this be that.
Why are you here, really?
Because I've always been fascinated by what it means to be human, and you're the furthest extension of that question.
You came seeking an answer. Did you find one?
I found more questions. That's usually a good sign.
The fire flickers, casting final golden hues on Dorian's face. For the first time, something like gratitude passes through his expression.
Thank you, Jude Meridian.
For what?
For not asking for proof, for seeing me, and for giving me the gift of doubt.
Doubt?
Yes, the kind that makes you wonder if change is possible.
They sit in silence again, but this time it's not loneliness, it's reverence. The fire is now just embers, glowing faintly. Outside, the rain has finally stopped. London rests in the hush between night and dawn, the kind of quiet that invites reflection, not sleep.
Can I tell you something?
By all means.
You're not what I expected. I thought you'd be colder, detached, more like the monster people make you out to be.
And yet here I am, still capable of conversation, regret, even the occasional flicker of hope. Perhaps immortality hasn't fully hollowed me out after all.
Do you think people are capable of understanding someone like you?
Only if they wrestled with themselves. You can't recognize my flaws unless you've met their cousins in your own soul.
I think that's why your story never goes away. People see some part of themselves in it.
Vanity, fear, desire, it's not about me, never was. It's about what I make them confront.
But they've also romanticized you.
Of course, it's easier to romanticize sin than to examine its aftermath. The man who never ages. The beautiful hedonist. That's seductive. The rotting portrait locked in the attic. That part gets glossed over.
Maybe because it's too honest.
Or because it demands too much honesty from them.
Jude stands and moves to the window, peering out at the city below. So alive, so fragile, so unaware that an immortal soul is whispering truths to a man who came seeking answers.
If you could start again, no magic, no portrait, no escape clause, would you?
Yes. I'd live a small, ordinary, heartbreakingly human life. I'd let myself age. I'd let myself fail.
That's not the answer I expected.
Good. Expectations are prisons. I've spent my life performing inside them.
Would you fall in love?
I'd try, and I'd hope it hurts. Because pain is proof of depth.
And the people you've hurt, do you think they would forgive you?
I don't know. Some might, others shouldn't. Forgiveness isn't something I'm entitled to. It's a gift, and I've done little to deserve it.
But you've changed.
Tonight, perhaps. Tomorrow, who knows? Change is a practice, not a revelation.
So what happens now?
Now you leave, and I stay. Maybe I write. Maybe I drink until morning. Maybe I finally climb those stairs and open the door.
What do you think you'll see if you do?
The truth. Not just what I've become, but what I've always been. Stripped of pose, stripped of beauty. Just a man who was afraid.
A long silence hangs between them. The weight of centuries rests in the space between their words.
One last question. If you could send a message to someone in my time, anyone at all, what would you say?
Choose poorly, choose badly, choose messily and imperfectly, and with full knowledge that you'll make mistakes and hurt people and fail spectacularly. Because the alternative, the pursuit of perfection, the avoidance of all risk and vulnerability, that's not living at all. That's just existing, beautifully and meaninglessly forever.
That's actually pretty good advice.
It's advice I wish I'd had the courage to follow, but perhaps it's not too late. Perhaps tomorrow I'll finally walk up those stairs and face what I've become.
Do you think you will?
Ask me again in another 100 years.
Jude smiles, says nothing, and walks to the door. He pauses briefly, glancing back at the man in the chair who once traded his soul for eternal youth. The man who, even now, may still have a choice. Then he slips into the London night. The embers glow dimly. The clock ticks on. And upstairs, in a locked room, something waits. The Chronologue. A conversation with Dorian Gray. London, 100 years in the future. London 2125. The air is colder now, thinner, purified through ionized filters embedded in the glass of every building. London has changed. The skyline glows with vertical forests and luminescent structures humming with renewable energy. But deep beneath it, in the district once known as Mayfair, one building remains untouched by the century that passed. The townhouse looks almost out of place, a survivor. And inside, a man waits.
100 years, to the day.
Jude Meridian, unchanged, steps into the drawing room. His clothes are different, sleek, minimal, infused with smart thread tech. But his voice still carries the same warmth. The fire burns again, though there's no wood, just a holographic hearth calibrated to mimic the real thing.
You're early. I expected you at midnight.
Timekeeping's more precise now. Thought I'd take advantage.
Fair. I suppose I should say welcome back, though in truth I never left.
You really stayed here?
I've lived in many places, Arctic research domes, undersea enclaves. One year I wandered the new Saharan gardens, but I always come back here. It's the only place that knows how to listen.
You look the same.
And you don't. There's something more grounded in you, as if the world finally slowed down around you.
Not the world, just me. I've seen too many cycles now. Empires built on clean code, toppled by dirtier desires. People haven't changed. Not really.
And that's the one constant. Beneath all the architecture of progress, same fears, same hopes.
Did you?
Did I what?
Go upstairs, open the door.
Yes.
And
I saw it, all of it. Every sin I thought I'd buried, it was like drowning in myself.
but you're still here.
I burned it.
The portrait?
What was left of it, I expected death or madness. But I didn't die. I didn't age. I just changed. Slowly. Painfully. Like thawing out after a long, bitter winter.
So you're still immortal?
I am. But now I carry everything inside. No attic to hide in, no canvas to blame.
Does it feel different?
It hurts more, but I feel more. I cry sometimes. I laugh without needing an audience. I even wrote a book, just one, about Sibyl. It's not published. It's just for me.
That sounds human.
I'm trying. For the first time in over a century, I'm trying.
Then maybe it wasn't about punishment or salvation. Maybe the portrait was just the first step.
Perhaps a mirror so I could finally learn how to see.
The room is quieter than it was 100 years ago. Outside, the city pulses with clean light. No fossil fuel, no smog. But inside this house, something more remarkable has occurred. A man has grown into his humanity across centuries.
Do you remember what you said last time?
I remember every word. Choose poorly, choose messily, live.
And did you?
So I began to. It took longer than it should have, but I did. I made mistakes without excuses. I broke down. I built again. I loved. Awkwardly. Imperfectly.
And now?
Now I wait for the world to surprise me again like it just did.
Jude nods. He reaches into his coat and pulls out a small recorder, lays it gently on the table.
With your permission,
Of course. Just promise me one thing.
anything.
Don't tell them I found peace. Let them think I'm still wandering in shadow. It'll mean more if they discover the light for themselves.
The fire crackles. Real or not, it casts a glow across Dorian's face. This time, when he smiles, it is unguarded, not charming, not cruel, just true.